I stared at the bank statement in my hands, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. There it was, plain as day. A monthly transfer of $1,500 to someone named Victoria Hayes. The same amount every month for the past 3 years. 3 years. We'd been married for 4. My hands started shaking as I scrolled through the transactions on our joint account. How had I never noticed this before? I handled most of our bills, but Derek always said he'd take care of a few things himself. I trusted him completely. Now that trust felt like the stupidest thing I'd ever given away. The name Victoria Hayes burned into my brain. I didn't know anyone by that name. Derek had never mentioned her. Not once in all our years together. But clearly, she meant something to him. $1,500 a month meant something. That was our car payment. That was half our mortgage. My stomach turned as I realized what this probably meant. His ex. It had to be his ex-girlfriend. I met Derek 6 years ago at a coffee shop downtown. He was reading a book on architecture, and I accidentally knocked it off his table with my bag. We laughed about it, and he bought me a coffee to make up for my embarrassment. He was kind, funny, and had these warm brown eyes that made me feel safe. We dated for 2 years before he proposed on a beach in California, and I thought I knew everything about him. He'd mentioned an ex named Vicky once or twice, but always casually, like she was ancient history. He said they dated for a couple of years in his 20s and it ended amicably. That was it. No drama, no lingering feelings, just a normal breakup. I never pressed for details because I didn't care about his past. I cared about our future. But now, sitting in our kitchen with this statement, I realized how little I actually knew. Victoria Hayes had to be Vicky. And my husband was sending her enough money every month to pay for a luxury apartment. I tried to calm down and think rationally. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe she was in trouble, and he was helping an old friend. Maybe it was a loan he was paying back. Maybe it was something completely innocent that I was blowing out of proportion. But $1,500 a month for 3 years? That was over $50,000. What kind of loan was that? What kind of friendship required that much money? And why wouldn't he tell me about it? We shared everything. At least, I thought we did. I looked at the clock. It was 2 in the afternoon, and Derek wouldn't be home from work until 6. I had 4 hours to decide what to do. 4 hours to figure out if I should confront him immediately or do some digging first. My rational side said to wait, to gather information, to not jump to conclusions. But my heart was screaming that my husband was having an affair and paying his mistress to keep quiet. I grabbed my laptop and opened Facebook. My fingers trembled as I typed Victoria Hayes into the search bar. Dozens of profiles popped up, but I narrowed it down by location. We lived in Portland, and Derek grew up here, so chances were she did too. After scrolling through several profiles, I found her. I knew it was her the moment I saw the photo. She was beautiful. Long dark hair, bright green eyes, and a smile that looked genuine and warm. Her profile was mostly private, but I could see a few public photos. One showed her at what looked like a hospital charity event. Another showed her with a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. The caption read, "My whole world." My stomach dropped. A child. Victoria had a child. I clicked on the photo, trying to zoom in on the boy's face. He had dark hair and brown eyes. He looked happy, holding up a soccer trophy. Could this be why Derek was sending money? My mind raced with possibilities. Was this Derek's son? Had he gotten his ex pregnant and never told me? The timeline could work. If the boy was 7 or 8, he would have been born before Derek and I even met. But why would he hide this from me? I would have understood. I would have accepted a child from a previous relationship. We could have made it work. Unless he wasn't sure the child was his. Unless Victoria told him years later and he'd been paying support ever since. Or unless there was something darker going on that I couldn't even imagine yet. I slammed the laptop shut, my head spinning. I needed more than Facebook photos. I needed real answers. I grabbed my phone and almost texted Derek right then and there, but something stopped me. If I confronted him now, over text, he'd have time to come up with a story. He'd have time to cover his tracks. I needed to face him in person and watch his eyes when he answered. The next 3 hours were torture. I cleaned the kitchen twice, folded laundry that didn't need folding, and paced the living room like a caged animal. Every possible scenario played through my head. Maybe Derek was a hero, secretly supporting his ex and her child out of the goodness of his heart. Maybe he was a liar who'd hidden a whole second life from me. Maybe I was about to discover that my marriage was built on secrets. By the time I heard his key in the door at 6:15, my nerves were completely shot. I'd positioned myself on the couch with the bank statement on the coffee table in front of me. I wanted him to see it the moment he walked into the room. Derek came in smiling, carrying takeout bags from our favorite Thai restaurant. He kissed me on the forehead like he always did. His smile faded when he saw my face. Then his eyes dropped to the bank statement, and all the color drained from his cheeks. "Babe, I can explain," he said immediately, setting the food down on the entry table. Those 4 words confirmed everything. There was something to explain. Something big enough to make him look terrified. I'd never seen Derek scared before, and it made my chest tighten with panic. "Who is Victoria Hayes?" I asked, keeping my voice steady even though I felt like screaming. Derek ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit he'd had since I met him. He sat down on the chair across from me, not on the couch beside me like he normally would. That distance felt like a canyon. "She's my ex," he said quietly. "I know that much," I replied. "What I don't know is why you've been sending her $1,500 every month for 3 years. While we've been married, Derek. While I've been cutting coupons and skipping girls' trips to save money, you've been sending your ex over $50,000. Derek looked down at his hands. The silence stretched between us like a rope pulling tighter and tighter. "It's complicated," he finally said. I actually laughed, but it came out bitter and harsh. "Complicated? That's what you're going with? Try me, Derek. Explain the complication that's worth more than our marriage." He looked up at me then, and I saw tears in his eyes. Derek never cried. In 4 years of marriage, I'd seen him tee up maybe twice, both times at weddings. "Victoria has a son," he began. My heart stopped. "His name is Tyler. He's 8 years old." I waited, holding my breath, preparing myself for him to say the words that would shatter everything. "And his not mine," Derek added quickly. The relief that flooded through me lasted exactly 2 seconds before confusion replaced it. "Then why are you sending her money?" I demanded. "If he's not your son, why would you financially support them?" Derek stood up and started pacing, just like I'd been doing all afternoon. "Tyler's father is my best friend from college. Was my best friend. His name was Brandon Cole." The past tense caught my attention immediately. Brandon and Victoria dated for 3 years. They were crazy about each other. Everyone knew they'd get married eventually. When Victoria got pregnant, Brandon was over the moon. He started planning their whole future together. Derek's voice cracked, and he paused to collect himself. 2 months before Tyler was born, Brandon was driving home from work. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit him head-on. He died instantly. My hand flew to my mouth. Whatever I'd been expecting, it wasn't this. Victoria was 7 months pregnant, alone, and completely devastated. Brandon didn't have life insurance. He was only 26 and thought he had all the time in the world to set things up properly. His parents had already passed away when he was in high school, and he was an only child. So Victoria had the baby alone. I asked softly, my anger starting to shift into something else. Derek nodded. She had no family support either. Her parents disowned her when she got pregnant out of wedlock. They are very religious and old-fashioned. So there she was, a single mom with a newborn, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. He sat back down, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Brandon was my roommate in college. We were like brothers. When he died, I promised myself I'd look out for Victoria and the baby. It's what Brandon would have wanted. It's what he would have done for me if the situation were reversed. The pieces were starting to come together, but I still didn't understand why this had to be a secret. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "We've been together for 6 years, Derek. Why did you hide this?" He looked genuinely pained. "I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't know how." "You didn't know how to tell me you were helping a friend's widow and child," I said, my voice rising with frustration. "That makes you a good person, Derek." Why would you think I'd be upset about that? He shook his head. It's not just about the money, though that's part of it. I knew $1,500 a month was a lot, and I knew you'd have questions about whether we could afford it. But the real reason I didn't tell you is because I see Tyler every week. My whole body went rigid. You what? I pick him up every Saturday morning. We go to the park, play soccer, get ice cream, sometimes catch a movie. I've been doing it since he was a baby. I'm the closest thing to a father figure he has. The room started spinning. Every Saturday morning for the past 6 years, Derek told me he was going to the gym or running errands or meeting up with college friends. I'd never questioned it because I trusted him completely. You've been lying to me every single week for our entire relationship, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The betrayal hit me harder than if he'd actually been having an affair. At least an affair would have been about him being weak or selfish. This was about him thinking I couldn't handle the truth. That I couldn't be trusted with something important to him. I wasn't lying, Derek said desperately. I was just, you absolutely were lying, I interrupted. Lies of omission are still lies. Every Saturday when you kissed me goodbye and told me you were going to the gym, that was a lie. Every time I asked about your day and you left out the fact that you'd spent it with a child, that was a lie. Our entire marriage has been built on lies. Derek reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I needed space to process this. My husband had a secret life. A secret child he was helping to raise. A secret family I knew nothing about. I need you to understand something, Derek said, his voice breaking. I love you more than anything in the world. You're my wife, my partner, my everything. But Tyler is an innocent kid who lost his father before he was even born. Brandon made me promise, right before he died, that I'd watch out for Victoria if anything ever happened to him. We were at a bar celebrating her pregnancy, and he was talking about setting up a will. He grabbed my arm and said, if something happens to me, make sure my family is okay. 3 weeks later, he was gone. Tears were streaming down Derek's face now. I couldn't break that promise. But I also couldn't figure out how to explain to you that I had this commitment. I was afraid you'd think I had feelings for Victoria, or that you'd be angry about the money, or that you'd make me choose. And I couldn't choose because choosing would mean abandoning Brandon's son. I got up and walked to the window, staring out at our quiet suburban street. All the perfect houses with their perfect families, everyone probably keeping their own secrets. Did you ever consider that I might have wanted to be part of this? I asked. That I might have wanted to help? That I might have liked Tyler and Victoria and supported what you were doing? Derek came to stand beside me. I thought about it. But the longer I waited, the harder it became to tell you. And then we got married, and I thought maybe I could slowly introduce the idea. But I chickened out every time. So what was your plan? I asked. To just keep lying forever? To keep sneaking around behind my back until Tyler grows up and doesn't need you anymore? Did you think I'd never find out? He shook his head miserably. I didn't have a plan. I just kept putting it off, hoping the right moment would come. I'm so sorry. I turned to face him fully. I need to meet them. Victoria and Tyler. If this is going to continue, if we're going to stay married, I need to be part of this instead of being kept in the dark. Derek's eyes widened with surprise and hope. Really? You'd want to meet them? I don't know if I want to, I said honestly. But I need to. Because right now, you have this whole separate life that I'm not part of, and that's not a marriage. That's not a partnership. Either we're in this together, or we're not in this at all. He grabbed my hands, and this time I let him. I'll set it up. This Saturday. We can all have lunch together. Victoria will understand. She's been asking me for years when she could meet you. That stopped me cold. She knows about me. Of course she knows about you, Derek said. I talk about you all the time. She's been wanting to thank you in person for years for being understanding about the situation. She thinks you know everything. A new wave of anger washed over me. So Victoria thinks I'm some kind of saint who's been graciously allowing my husband to support her and her son? She has no idea that I've been completely in the dark. Derek winced. I told her you knew. I didn't want her to feel guilty or like she was causing problems in our marriage. I thought it would be easier for everyone. Easier, I repeated flatly. You've been lying to both of us to make things easier for yourself. That's not fair, Derek protested. I was trying to honor my friend's memory and protect everyone involved. I made a mistake not telling you from the start, but my intentions were good. I pulled my hands away. Good intentions don't pay the bills, Derek. Good intentions don't make up for 6 years of secrets. And good intentions definitely don't rebuild broken trust. I grabbed my jacket from the coat rack by the door. I need some air. I'm going to drive around for a while. I ended up at my sister's house across town. Nicole took one look at my face and pulled me inside without questions. We sat on her back porch with glasses of wine while I told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Okay, so let me get this straight, she finally said. Your husband has been secretly supporting his dead best friend's child and ex-girlfriend for years. He's been acting as a father figure to this kid. And he hid it from you because he was scared you'd be mad. I nodded. That's the summary. And are you mad? She asked. I thought about it. I'm furious about the lying. I'm hurt that he didn't trust me enough to tell me. But the actual situation? A man honoring his friend's dying wish and helping a widow and her child? That's actually really beautiful. Nicole smiled. So you're mad at the method, not the mission. Exactly, I said. If he'd told me from the beginning, I would have supported this completely. We could have had Tyler over for dinner. I could have been his friend too. So what are you going to do? Nicole asked. I stayed into my wine glass. I'm going to meet them on Saturday. And then I'm going to decide if I can get past this. Can I give you some advice? My sister offered. I nodded. Derek messed up by not telling you. That's true. But think about why he didn't tell you. It wasn't because he was having an affair or because he wanted to hurt you. It was because he made a promise to a dying friend and he was terrified of losing you over it. That shows he loves you. He just showed it in a really stupid way. I laughed despite myself. Are you defending him? No, Nicole said. I'm defending your marriage. Because from where I'm sitting, you married a good man who did a dumb thing. And good men who do dumb things can learn from their mistakes. I stayed at Nicole's for another hour before heading home. When I got back, Derek was sitting in the dark living room, waiting for me. I talked to Victoria, he said when I walked in. She's devastated that you didn't know. She said she would have never accepted my help if she'd known I was keeping it from you. She wants to meet you and apologize. I sat down on the couch. She doesn't need to apologize. She didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you, Derek said firmly. This is entirely on me. I created this mess by being a coward. I should have trusted you from the start. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you have feelings for Victoria? Derek looked genuinely shocked. What? No. Absolutely not. Victoria is like a sister to me. She was Brandon's girlfriend, and helping her is about honoring him. There's nothing romantic there at all. I promise you that. I studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. All I saw was honesty and desperation for me to believe him. Okay, I said quietly. I believe you. Saturday morning came too quickly. I barely slept all week, my mind racing with anxiety about meeting Victoria and Tyler. Derek was a nervous wreck too, constantly asking if I was okay and if I wanted to cancel. But I knew we had to do this. We met them at a family restaurant near the park. I spotted them immediately when we walked in. Victoria was even prettier in person, but what struck me most was how tired she looked. She had the worn-down appearance of someone who'd been working too hard for too long. Tyler was a cute kid with a gap-toothed smile and scraped knees. He saw Derek and immediately ran over, hugging him around the waist. Derek, did you see I scored 2 goals at my game yesterday? The easy affection between them was obvious and genuine. Derek ruffled the boy's hair. I heard. Your coach called me. I'm so proud of you, buddy. Then he turned to me. Tyler, this is my wife. Her name is Amanda. Tyler looked up at me with curious brown eyes. Hi. Derek talks about you all the time. He says you make the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. I felt my heart soften immediately. Well, maybe you can come over sometime and we'll make some together. His face lit up. Really? That would be awesome. Victoria approached more cautiously. She extended her hand, but I pulled her into a hug instead. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea. If I'd known, I never would have. It's okay, I said, meaning it. You were just trying to take care of your son. I understand. We sat down for lunch, and to my surprise, it wasn't awkward at all. Tyler dominated the conversation with stories about school and soccer and his friends. Victoria was warm and kind, asking me questions about my job and complimenting Derek on finding such a wonderful wife. I watched Derek interact with Tyler and saw a side of my husband I'd never witnessed before. He was patient and playful and completely present. After lunch, the four of us walked to the park. Tyler dragged Derek off to play soccer while Victoria and I sat on a bench watching them. He's a really good kid, I said. Victoria smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. He is. And a lot of that is because of Derek. When Brandon died, I didn't think I'd survive. I was drowning in grief and bills and terror about becoming a mother alone. Derek showed up at the hospital the day Tyler was born and promised me I wasn't alone. He's kept that promise every single week for 8 years. Why didn't you tell him to tell me? I asked gently. She turned to look at me. I did. Multiple times. But Derek was always so worried that you'd leave him if you knew. He said you were the love of his life, and he couldn't risk losing you. So I stopped pushing. I'm sorry. I should have pushed harder. We watched Derek teach Tyler how to do a bicycle kick. The boy fell down laughing, and Derek helped him up, both of them grinning. My husband is keeping a promise to a dead man, I said softly. That's who I married. Someone who honors his word even when it's hard. Victoria reached over and squeezed my hand. Brandon chose the right person to trust with his family. And you chose the right person to marry, even if he's an idiot sometimes. I laughed. Yeah, he really is. On the drive home, Derek was quiet. Finally, he said, So what happens now? I took a deep breath. Now we start over. With honesty this time. I want to be part of Tyler's life. I want to know Victoria. And I want us to figure out our budget together so we're both comfortable with what we're contributing to help them. Derek pulled the car over and looked at me with absolute wonder. You mean that? You're not leaving? I'm not leaving, I confirmed. But we need counseling. We need to work on communication and trust. Because if something like this happens again, if you hide something major from me again, I won't be able to stay. He nodded vigorously. Anything you want. Counseling, complete transparency, whatever it takes. I'll never hide anything from you again. I swear. We drove home in comfortable silence. When we got there, Derek pulled me into a tight hug in our driveway. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance to make this right. That night, we talked for hours about everything. Derek told me stories about Brandon, about their college days, about the accident. He showed me photos of Brandon holding newborn Tyler in the hospital, taken just hours before the crash. He shared text messages Victoria had sent over the years, thanking him for his help. I told him about my week of panic and anger, about thinking he was having an affair, about my conversation with Nicole. 3 months later, Tyler came over for dinner for the first time. Victoria joined us, and we all cooked together in our kitchen. Watching Derek and Tyler make a mess with flour while attempting homemade pizza, I realized something important. My husband had made a terrible choice by keeping this secret, but he'd made that choice because he loved 2 things deeply: his promise to his friend and me. He'd been wrong to think he had to choose between them. But now that everything was out in the open, our lives felt fuller and richer. Tyler called me Miss Amanda and told everyone at school that Derek's wife made the best cookies. Victoria became a genuine friend, someone I could have coffee with and swap stories about Derek's quirks. And Derek himself seemed lighter, no longer carrying the weight of his secret. As I watched Tyler show us his latest soccer trophy that evening, Derek caught my eye across the table and mouthed, "I love you." I mouthed it back. Our marriage hadn't been perfect, but we were building something stronger now. Something based on truth, forgiveness, and a little boy who'd lost his father but gained a family. And somehow, that felt like exactly where we were meant to be.